So, obviously, I have to ask, what do you think is the worst game you could speedrun?
Worst game you could actually speed.
What would just be a nightmare to try to speedrun for you?
For me personally, I mean,
What do you think? Like most people would have trouble with that you for sure would have trouble with.
I mean that could be anything though, especially for me, because I'm not that great at stuff like
Well,
that.
between the two of us, you're the only one that actually attempts to speedrun things.
Yeah, but I'm like brand new. I'm like a shiny new egg.
Okay, so for me, I gotta say, my joke answer, of course, would be like one of the Olsen Twins games, or That's So Raven, one of the Barbie games.
What Olsen twin game?
They have a couple of different ones.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of the names.
Most of them were on handhelds, from what I remember.
Yeah, like Game Boy. And like, didn't they have like the LED like type games as well?
That would not shock me in the slightest.
Like the way you have to like high five the babysitter or something.
Okay, that just sounds scary. I'm looking that up after we get done here, though.
But it's more like a high five to the face. Like, I think you have to bitch slap someone. I don't know.
I want this to be a real thing now. I'm so glad you mentioned this.
Yeah, and that's it. I'm sure it's something. I'm like the little kids. I'm sure it's them. Anyway.
My serious answer, though, after playing it, and I still want a copy, because I played it when it originally came out. Well, that's not true. I saw it played. I was in the same room it was being played when it originally came out. But I never actually played it, and I wanted to get, the new release copy. Would be Night Trap. And I think that'd be a pain to speedrun, because if I understand correctly, it's not exactly the same every time. Like, you can't just memorize it.
That's a good one, because there's too much RNG.
A lot of RNG. Yeah.
RNG. Yep. Praise the RNG. Jeebus.
RNGesus. Yeah.
RNGesus.
So what's yours? What's the worst game you can think of to try to speedrun?
I think any kind of platform, like any kind of platforming game that with like really awkward controls, like Croc. I'm gonna try Croc, and I'm dreading it because I know how awful the controls really are.
You told me the controls were horrible.
They're really bad. It's like pseudo tank controls. I can't explain it. It's really weird. And it just feels awkward and clunky, and I'm not looking forward to it, but I am in a way. It's a real mixed bag. Anyway, but yeah, maybe Croc. I don't know.
Okay. So do you know why we're doing this cold open about speedrunning?
No. Why? Tell me, Stephen.
Because we just got finished with AGDQ.
I know.
2018. It's 2018.
I know. It's gone so quick.
And it's AGDQ.
It's speedrunning. Quick. Let's see what I did there.
I wish you hadn't.
I wish I hadn't either. Oh, God. Okay. Yeah.
All right. So for those who may not know, just for the few in the audience who may not know what GDQ is, why don't you tell them?
It's an event that happens twice a year.
What does it stand for?
Oh, well, GDQ is Games Done Quick. That's what it stands for. And there's two of them. There's Awesome Games Done Quick, and there's Summer Games Done Quick. And I always get the games and done quick mixed up. So I always end up saying like ADGQ. Awesome Done Quick Games Things.
That's a perfect title. That sounds like a 5-year-old title right there.
Yeah. So, yeah. And it's just basically where a lot of speedrunners come together and at this event, and it goes on for like a week. I think it's a week.
Yeah, so usually, in my experience, it's been a little bit longer. Not by much. It usually starts on a Sunday, and it starts around noon, I guess, Eastern time or whatever on that Sunday, and then goes until the following. It used to go until the following Sunday around noon. They would have like a block at the end, which people playing random games and wrap up and all. But at this time, it actually ended, about 5 in the morning on Saturday?
I think it was around about 5-ish, I think, when it finally stopped.
Yeah. So, you're right. This event, it is a big event. It's been going on for several years. I remember when they were in a basement. It used to be, I remember seeing footage from it. I've only been watching for about maybe 6 years, 5 years, something like that. I've been watching for a little while.
I was going to say, has it been going on that long?
I think so.
I'm pretty new to this whole scene, so I knew it'd been going on for a little while, like sort of looking into it, but I didn't realise it was that long.
Yeah, I'm not sure about the exact number of years, but it's been going on. Right. I've been watching it for several years now because I found out about just speedrunning in general, like not long before I found out about GDQ. Because people kept telling me about it.
Huh.
But GDQ their events used to be in, like literally like a basement and, production quality much worse. But, you can tell, you can look and see that they've come a long way. And as you said, they have a charity almost every time. Usually, the one I remember the most is usually Doctors Without Borders.
Right, that's a big one, yeah.
That's a big one.
I've noticed.
And this year, or at least for AGDQ, was cancer prevention, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Prevent Cancer Foundation.
Right. And, so you have these speedrunners come and they perform and people donate during certain speedruns or certain blocks. They have incentives, where they'll give away a prize for everybody who donates during that particular game or that particular block. You get your name put in a drawing, and you can win stuff like they give away consoles, they give away
signed stuff,
many different things. I've seen little art pieces up to whole consoles to headsets that were donated, a little bit of everything. And one thing that I love is how much the actual community, like people like Razer and Yeti and all these t-shirt companies that do video game themed stuff, and actual, there was one year when they were running Banjo-Kazooie that they actually got the guy who did the music for Banjo-Kazooie to call in while they were speedrunning Banjo-Kazooie.
Oh, wow.
It was great. That was incredible.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that was a couple of years ago, I believe. So, people are getting involved. It's for charity. How do you understand how the situation works, like how these people get to this event, like the runners?
I guess they would go by car or train and plane. Is that what you mean?
That is not what I mean.
Or they've got to go fast.
Oh.
Sonic.
Should I expect bad jokes for the rest of this podcast?
Yeah, you probably should, yeah.
So my understanding is you have a lot of speedrunners who do this either as a hobby or maybe they stream, as part of their income for whatever reason. They put a lot of time. I heard several of the different runners this year, in fact, mention how much time they've been putting into this and, how often you have to do it. And we want to talk a little bit about speedrunning, but it's tough. And these guys, they practice, they reset, they practice, they reset, they practice, and then everybody submits a run. And I'm not sure how the process works exactly, but GDQ goes through and they pick, some of the better runs. Some of the people maybe they think are more entertaining, whatever, and they bring those people out there. And it's a cool event. Now, real quick, what is speedrunning itself?
It's a very competitive thing that you just try and beat a game as quickly as possible, and either you restrict yourself under certain conditions or categories as they're sort of narrowed down, like whether you get 100% of all the items or collectibles, and whether you use like glitches if you find or know of any glitches. And glitches are basically ways you can manipulate the game and complete it quicker in your favour, or they can be used in that way. But yeah, it's ultimately just bragging rights as to say, hey, I've done this challenge as quick as possible. I'm the world record holder. Fight me, bro.
Oh, is that what they say?
Yeah, it's fight me, bro.
All right, fair enough. If you're ever interested in this, there's way better explanations than what we just gave out there.
Yeah.
You can also look at speedrun.com.
Yep.
Very cool resource. We actually know a few people who have some records up there. And you yourself, the lovely Geeketiquette, you have a record up, I believe.
I didn't have a world record, but for a little while, like 10 months ago, I submitted an RE7 Madhouse run, New Game Plus. Now that is a note. I mentioned about categories. and I was 6th, and now I'm 12th. But I'm in the top 20, and I was in the top 10.
That's something to be proud of. Like all jokes aside, that's something to really be proud of. And so these categories, they get really specific because obviously you have categories for PlayStation, for Xbox, for PC. You have categories for glitch, for any percent. You have categories for Madhouse, for easy.
Yeah.
Like you said, some people make their own categories and they become the first person to challenge, like with a no handsaw run or no health spray run and stuff like that. And, for a lot of your really popular games, you can find dozens, so many different categories that you could run. And what is always neat to me is that there are communities for these games out there. You have these speedrunning communities who usually are specific to a certain series of games or certain types of games, and then just to certain games. Like the speedrunning community, I believe it was for Mario 3D World is the one I saw. And they were actually talking about how that community is starting to really take off and grow, and they're, now that more people are playing it, they're starting to learn new tricks and new glitches and stuff like that. And I agree. So, me personally, I don't speedrun. I'm not good at it. I don't think I would be good at it. I did for a very brief amount of time. I got to where I was shaving some time off of Mega Man X. If I did speedrun, that'd probably be the game I'd play,
I can see you doing that.
Yeah, but it's just really neat to learn about the games.
Yeah.
And then you watch these people completely destroy your childhood games, because some of these games just have the worst coding or infrastructure, or, they just break them apart. A really good example is, I haven't watched it yet, I plan to, but it's the Prey, the new version of Prey.
Right.
Apparently someone beat it in 8 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's because it's so just a broken mess.
It's like the first Outlast game. Like, you can do that in around about, I think it's like 6 minutes or something, because there's a glitch near the beginning that you can fall through the map, which then loads the end section of the game. If you fall through if you go a certain way and fall through the wall in a certain position, and then it loads up the next, the last segment of the game, and you can beat it in like 6 or 8 minutes, something around about the same time.
So my understanding about how people get good at these games, and you can help fill me in a little bit here, you just play. You play, you play again, you reset, you play again. I used to watch Stone Moose do some of his speedruns, a very talented guy, and I remember him playing, I think it was Super Pitfall, and just, you hear the same music cues over and over again, because if he messes up, he resets, he starts over, he goes again, or he'll be like, okay, well, I'm done trying that particular glitch, let's go and move on, so he'll play it up to another point. There's a lot of time, perseverance, a lot of work put in. And when you join that community, you start looking at other people's runs and you say, okay, this is how they handle this part. This is how they glitch this part. And you kind of have to start putting together what you think, I guess, is the best run based off all the information and off your play style. And you have to start trying to cut corners and learn how to be faster. And
optimization.
For something like Resident Evil, I'm sure it's also learning how to dodge molded and...
RE7 is probably I'm starting to learn to speedrun other games. Like this is something that I actually have really gotten into recently, and I've kind of got the bug for it. Like I'm itching to do it. And the thing is with RE7 is it's kind of painful to do and learn, because especially on Madhouse, because the autosaves are few and far between. Like, there's a good at least 15-minute chunk. If you die in like a certain area, you could easily lose 15 minutes. So if you're actually like doing a run and then you die, then that's it. It's GG.
Right.
GG's good game. It's a rip run.
So funny story. Years ago, I had someone over at the apartment and I had AGDQ running in the background. And somebody was playing Ninja Gaiden, and we were watching, and of course this person was just running through, and the person died, right? And so of course my friend who was over was like, he died. He's not that good at this game. Like, he died. And I'm just like, no, look, he died on purpose. And the thing was, he had died so he could spawn somewhere else.
Right.
You know, and now I'll admit, like, it took me a little bit to get that. It's like,
to grasp that.
It's like, it's got to be quicker to just do this. But no, it's literally, there are some things where you're shaving off seconds, maybe milliseconds, you know. One of the runs that I wish we had been able to watch, but we actually had company over at the time, was the Mario Sunshine run. Yeah. And there were a lot of stuff they were doing from what I saw in that run where, you know, you would do stuff that you normally wouldn't do. Or a good example is Mega Man X. Yeah. You know, people have screwed up before because when you get to the intro stage in Mega Man X, you want to be at 3 or less health, so that Vile will immediately paralyze you. Right. And people have actually messed up in the past and gotten killed because he stepped on them or something like that. You know?
Yeah, I remember you saying actually about that, about having to be low HP, and because did we catch some of the race this year?
For Mega Man X?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so it was a race between Tokyo 90.
Some guy named Colonel Fatso.
That
I've never heard of.
And Walrus Prime.
Which sounds like a Maximal. That sounds like a Transformers Beast Wars Maximal.
It sounds amazing. Right. I think I caught like the end of it mostly, like towards the end, maybe halfway. And I remember hearing the commentators. It was Big John and
Caleb Hart.
That's the one.
I actually really like Caleb Hart. He's a little weird. He's always taking his shirt off. Unorthodox.
Oh, that dude.
But he's a really good runner. Like I don't know why he didn't run this year. I'm kind of interested to figure out why he didn't run, because he runs Mega Man X1 and X2. But they had him on commentary, and those two guys were really good on commentary.
Or the couch. You know, right. I just had a really odd thought with the couch, because I normally say like, oh, I've got so and so on the couch, and for some reason what popped in my head just then was the casting couch.
That's just because you're watching too much porn, I guess.
I'm sorry, I'm so bad, because it's completely like nothing to do with that at all.
And a little bit different.
It just came to mind. Anyway, but it was a really good, like, I say I've only watched GDQ the past like 2 years maybe, pretty much since I've known you, because I didn't know anything about this event, right? Or at least I hadn't really. I may have like heard it through the grapevine, kind of thing, but I wasn't really interested in it.
Which is funny because they have a British version of this.
Really?
It's AES or
oh,
ESA,
right? Yes,
something like that.
Yes.
I've watched it a couple times.
I completely forgot about that.
You're a horrible Brit.
I am terrible. I am
Brit.
so bad. But yeah, like it's just funny because now I've been watching and sort of being a part of a few runners communities and stuff, and it's like, this is actually really fascinating.
It is.
And I really enjoy this a lot more than I thought I would.
Now, what to you makes it fascinating is the question.
The runner's patience is one thing.
Sure. The time and effort put into it.
Yeah. And it's also, I kind of had an epiphany the other day when I was watching, I was talking to a friend about GDQ and about my interest in starting to take it more seriously and to start actually practicing games myself and what have you. And I was talking about how I realised that in my early teens, my friends would speedrun a game. You know, they would set themselves challenges to try and beat a game. And one of the games was Resident Evil Director's Cut. And it was to try and beat it in, you know, as quick as time as they could. Because I think you get rewarded with a rocket launcher as well. Yeah. And I know you definitely do in 2. Yeah. If you beat it in under 3 hours? 2 hours?
I think it's 3.
I think it's 3. And I realised, I was like, wow, you know, I've actually been into speedrunning without realising it for a long time.
See, that's funny to me, because we did something very similar, like with GoldenEye. I always remember this with GoldenEye. You would try to run the hardest level of GoldenEye or hardest levels of GoldenEye, hardest difficulty with only a pistol or,
Right.
with not using certain items and stuff like that. But we never really did it for time. And I think I enjoy like taking my time with a game. And I really think speedrunning a game, I can't imagine that if you get really good at speedrunning a game, that it might actually kind of hurt your overall opinion of the game.
I'm a little bit worried about that myself. Funnily enough, though, with RE7, I still enjoy playing that casually, but I do go into autopilot a lot. But I think even if you don't speedrun games, if you enjoy a game so much and you play it over and over again, kind of similar to what we were talking about last episode, if you haven't already listened to it, check it out. About streamers who pigeonhole themselves and play the same games over and over again. That kind of repetitiveness and it going stale after a bit, and you kind of like lose the love for that. That was one thing that I did worry about when I decided to start, practicing and taking games seriously. But I'm also really excited. And I think there will always be a love for any game that I play, whether I try and speedrun it or not.
Yeah. I agree with that, and I think, for me, one of the things that makes it so entertaining is I learn a lot about these games by listening to the people who have dissected them, and they start talking about the history of the game. Like a lot of the speedrunners, they want to know why this part's glitchy, or they want to know why this happens in this game. So they'll actually they'll email the developers, or they'll, ask the community, or somebody will know a lot of information about it. One of the things that I remember is I was watching someone run, I believe it was the third Sonic the Hedgehog game, and they were actually talking about how there was a particular part of the level that they were on that they had actually sent the developers like a question, like, can you please tell us why this happens? And the developers didn't know. Like, they were just as confused. So it was really interesting stuff like that. Now, I think for me, I prefer non-glitch runs. I like watching the skill.
Yeah.
I like watching the people who can tell you how they're doing it. They can, in Mario, jump and bounce off a shell and then use that same shell to hit off another one and bounce off one, and they'll tell you like how they practice that, or they, It's really entertaining. But part of what really makes these runs good to a degree is the person doing it. It's the person, the runner, and how entertaining they are. Now, a lot of times, these runners are really concentrating. Because a lot of what they do takes concentration and skill and timing. A lot of times you'll hear them talking on the stream like, okay, I need quiet for right now because I have to hear a cue.
Yeah, audio cues
and stuff like that. Which is why, though, a lot of that they have people on the couch. You have extra people who commentate or who are there to kind of answer questions so that the runner doesn't have to explain everything, And the example that you gave, of course, with the Mega Man X race, you sometimes get very entertaining people who are on the couch, like Big John, like Caleb Hart, like whoever. Spike Vegeta is a good one. There are several people, and a lot of these people... one of the interviewers, I remember thinking, I was like, man, he's got to have been there for years, because I remember seeing him years ago. So, what do you think makes a really entertaining runner?
Some people don't like runners who talk constantly. Now, I actually don't mind that so much, because if I wanted to watch a game, go through casually and go through and find all the nooks and crannies, or crooks and nannies, whichever way you want to say it. I like to say both. Anyway, then I don't think watching a speedrunner is the way to do it. And I think I really like listening to, like you say, the information, little tidbits and fun facts, and how they execute certain jumps, and the precision it takes, and I like things, and plus I'm a visual learner as well, so having them tell me while they're doing something helps me a lot as well. And it's like, oh wow, I didn't know you could do that. That's pretty cool, So I like the talkers for the most part. I understand that they need a break now and then, and they, you know, sometimes, like you say, they need to focus and concentrate, because there are parts in, like, Resident Evil 7, for example, and this is the only reference that I have where I kind of, like, have to focus, because I you know, there's a lot of places that you can get hit, and if you get hit on Madhouse, then, you know, even with the items, with the unlockable items, like defense coin and whatever, you know, that could end your run if you get caught in a particular place. So the talkers, the informative ones, I like.
I like the informative ones. I like the ones who have really bad jokes that they set up for their runs.
Yes.
Like, I can't remember the joke now, but one of the guys doing the Silent Hill run actually said, "I can't believe I used that joke." I think it was a Silent Hill run. But they're you know, some of them are a little bit cocky, like the guy running Silent Hill.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I'd seen the name on speedrun.com and stuff, because, like, I'd looked into Silent Hill a little bit, and I'd seen the name, and, you know, I didn't know who he was or anything. It's like I say, I'm still learning people and the kind of, like, known runners in the community kind of thing. He did seem a little bit, but I don't know whether that was because he was, like, sugar overloaded because of the amount of refills. That was
possibly
that made me laugh, because he's a British guy, and he was talking about how he couldn't get over the fact that over here in the States you get, like, free refills on your drinks, which we don't normally get. We're not used to that kind of thing. It's like, whoa. So he had, like, goodness knows how many, like, drinks of Coke. And he'd been to IHOP as well, so...
Which is a great place, so yeah.
It can be.
IHOP's lovely. The point is, I think
Hashtag not sponsored by IHOP.
Yeah, not yet.
Or Coca-Cola.
I think my favorite one, honestly, was somebody was running Half-Life 2, and there's a part that you can't skip, and there's no controls for you to hit. You just have to kind of wait there. So he literally stopped his run, was letting that go through. He picks up a Rubik's Cube from someone, like, gave him one from the couch, and he solves the Rubik's Cube while he was waiting.
Was that this year?
No, that was Summer Games Done Quick last year, I think. But I'm looking and I'm like, okay, one, this had to be set up, right?
Yeah.
Two, that seems egotistical to me.
Yeah, it's kind of like rubbing salt in the wound, isn't it? It's like,
I'm so good at this game.
I am
I'm
freaking awesome. Yeah, I'm awesome at this game. But here, I can also do one of the most annoying and, like, known puzzles while I'm waiting for this thing to happen. You know, while I've got a little break. It's like, oh yeah, I've just solved a Rubik's Cube.
There is downtime in a lot of the streams. You know, a lot of times you'll hear the runner actually say, it's like, now's a good time for donations, or, you know, now's the time I'm not going to talk much. And so you have an announcer who is reading donations or updating the audience on, like, a lot of times they will have games like one of the Mario games. They did a bonus for what character was going to be used for the final part. I think it was actually the 3D world. Super Mario 3D World. And so, you know, pull out victory. Somehow Toad won that when he was in last place. But, you know, you'll hear the announcer constantly saying, like, oh, we're this close to this goal, and if you still want to put money towards this, you need to donate before then.
Right.
And so there is a lot of commentary and stuff going on. Like, I never recommend speedruns for people if you plan on playing this game. Don't watch the speedrun of it, because all the important stuff's going to get spoiled for you. So tell me, like, in your opinion, you know, with what you saw, what were some of the best runs you saw this year?
I really enjoyed, there was a particular block, it was the horror block, was my favourite. Now, that's me being slightly biased because I knew who the runners were.
Now that's true. Now, you have been paying a little bit more attention to this because you were the one who told me about a couple of the runners. Now, I'd heard the name Carcinogen before. Yeah. And I knew kind of who he was. I think I've even actually seen one of his streams before. But he was the one who ran Resident Evil 7 this year.
He did really well. Like, that was a great run. That was really entertaining.
Except for the multiple times he said, "This never happens." I think that was my favorite part.
But he also took the piss out of himself for that, because, like, the thing is, it was funny because I was practicing Resident Evil 7 the other day. Because after watching it and after, it finished, I was just like, I really want to play this again. So I did. And I was fluffing up on areas that I don't normally. And so I kind of like continued the joke saying that's never happened to me before, because it hadn't. That was the thing. It hadn't happened to me before. So that was a really good run. He is very informative. He does definitely know his stuff when it comes to Resident Evil lore and runs in particular. At least so I've heard. I don't really watch him that much, but I know of him. And I know he's kind of like his reputation in that. And, like the guys on the couch as well. There are a few people that I knew. And, well, not personally, but, that I knew of.
You're talking about Bach.
Bok Basoup, yeah. And Soup Troop.
Why are you smiling when you say that?
Because it's fun. Yeah, so there was Carcinogen with RE7, Madhouse, New Game, not New Game Plus, which is also, for me, why I was really, really hyped for that run. Because that's like on the Madhouse difficulty, which is the hardest difficulty in the game. That is probably the harder category because you don't have the unlockable items like infinite ammo, the circular saw and stuff like that. He didn't use any of that. Mm-hmm. And so that's why I really wanted to watch that run in particular, because it was RE7. And I was also sat there and I was waiting to see something that I hadn't seen before. Like maybe, to get tips on how I could improve my run.
Yeah.
And there were a few things, like he took different routes, but he took like the safe route, which I don't blame him because obviously, if you're running a game and, the idea is to obviously to get through it as quickly as possible while you've got like over 100k people watching, I think I would probably pick the safe route.
Sure.
Save me from dying and embarrassing myself.
It's got to be pressure, right?
Oh, I couldn't do it.
I mean, you run it, on your stream, and you're, some of these people have hundreds of people who come into their streams, but you have so many people watching. I couldn't even tell you the numbers of people watching, but it was always way up there. Mm-hmm. Thousands of people. And then you have people physically behind you in the hotel room, or not room, but in the hotel ballroom. Yeah. And so, you've got people on the couch right behind you who are trying to kind of help you cover by talking a little bit. And I'll admit, I'm a little bit of a masochist. Sometimes I like to see when people mess up.
I was about to say, I think that's also even people who may not really be interested in speedrunning in general. But it's like people who watch like figure skating and ice skating. It's like they may not actually like the sport or watching the Winter Olympics and actually watching the event, or may not have any interest in it whatsoever. But they watch it because they want to see if they're going to fall over or not.
Sure. And let's go back to that Mega Man X race. That was a super close race.
Yeah.
They were, even at the worst times, in the beginning and middle of that race, they were 10 seconds apart. And this is 3 people racing. So you've got these 3 people, who were doing so well. One guy, Tokyo 90, decided to take an alternate path from the other guys. Looks like he's about to pull ahead. Really looks like he's about to just, show that it was going to work. And he had some bad luck. And he started to slip. And he started to slip a little bit more.
Bad
RNG. And then at the end, he died twice on the final boss. And I felt bad for him, but at the same time, I was kind of laughing.
I know what you mean though. It's that kind of gallows humor almost, in a way. That also makes it interesting. And it also shows the kind of support the community has, because everybody was rooting for him after he died.
Right.
Like, even though he knew he had lost, he carried on. He was a great sportsman, about what's the thing they say? Like, very
sportsmanship?
Yeah. like that. So he was very sportsmanlike and all that.
Oh yeah, yeah.
For carrying on the run and doing it.
I can't really remember anyone who's been just a horrible sport. There was that one guy that ran Crash 3 that kind of got banned because he was talking about all the suicidal stuff. And
wow.
That was a weird one. I just think some of these people, I don't remember who said this. I think it might have been Eric. I'm not sure. But, said it's like you take this person who's been in their basement running this game and trying to perfect it, and this is what they do with a lot of their day, Probably not the best social person. Then you put them in front of the internet, I'm not saying that's the case. It's just that's a good possibility.
Right, yeah,
but,
of course.
So for you, I know you told me that the RE3 run, the race there, was really good.
Yeah.
And now this again is Bok for soup.
Bok bar soup.
I'm not even gonna try anymore. The bird guy. The reason you have bird emotes that they're chickens. Whatever. It was him versus
Wuss Cake.
Wuss Cake?
Wuss Cake, yeah.
Like WUSS cake?
Yes.
Okay.
Wuss Cake.
Fair enough. Mm-hmm. So they're running a 2-man race for RE3.
Yeah.
And RE3 has, out of all the RE games, or at least the originals, the worst RNG.
Right, exactly. There was so many, and their race was very similar to the Mega Man X one in a sense of
they were neck and neck for a long time.
Right, at one point they were perfectly in sync with each other. Like they'd caught up so much that they were in sync, and it was funny because so one thing that determines the race is whether you get the Magnum or the grenade launcher at the Stars office.
I didn't realize this. Now, I'll be the first to admit, RE3, I love the Resident Evil series, but RE3 is the one I've probably played some of the least. It and Zero. And I just thought, like, oh, okay, well, if it's not there, no big deal. I didn't realize how important that was.
No, I didn't either.
And there is a way to go get the grenade launcher
you can
later.
You can get either
but
later.
It's too far out of the way.
Well, it is and it isn't. I mean, if you're speed running it, then it is no point. It just means that, from what I gather, and I've only been watching Bok Soup for a little while now, and from what I gather,
I still want to say Bok for Soup because there's a band called Bowling for Soup.
Go
ahead.
I got you. Just call him Bok. So
you did that.
I did. I'm doing all the things. So yeah, you go because you can pick up if you get the Magnum, then that means that you're gonna have to mix gunpowder later on for Magnum rounds, if I remember correctly. I think
that sounds right.
From what I gather from when he's been doing his runs. Now, talk about like repeating and resetting a game. He's been known to sit there for 2 hours resetting at the same point because he's been, because he was getting bad RNG.
Well,
2 hours, the same point.
The guy on the couch, I don't know who was on the couch for the RE3 run, but he said most people, if you were a speedrunner and that was a practice round and you got the Magnum, you just go ahead and reset.
Yeah, basically, and that's what he does. So on the couch, that was Big John, Carcinogen, and an internal Enigma.
Right. Carcy was on there.
Yeah. And it was, it was entertaining. It was neck and neck, pretty much for the whole thing. Now, unfortunately for Wuss Cake, he died at the chemical plant with acid. They both had really bad chemical plant acid nemesis fights.
Well, that's another RNG point, isn't it?
I think it can be, but it's not. Again, it's not like as bad. It's just there are sometimes occasions that's quite rare that what happened to them happens, and it's just something to do because they use the knife to hit the acid. And to hit Nemesis, right? Mm-hmm. And they were just having really bad luck with it and getting caught and getting hit and stuff like that. And that rarely happens. It does happen, but rarely. So, so Bok won the race, let's go Bok. I'm a sub, what can I say? It's just like, as speedrunners go, from all the speedruns I've seen that I've watched and sort of had a quick look at, him and Pessimism who is a Resident Evil remaster master, as I like to put it. They're probably the two of the most chill and nicest and like welcoming kind of. I'm not saying like the others aren't. I don't know, really, but from my experience anyway. So.
And the other one you really liked, you were telling me about, and I missed some of this one. I had to leave the room for whatever reason, but was Metal Gear Solid Run.
Yeah.
And I saw the first part of this, and this guy, who was it that ran that?
It began with P. It was Plywood. Plywood, that's his name. And he seemed really cool, and
he seemed really good. Like he seemed like he knew exactly what he was doing.
Right, yeah, and
I mean, all of these guys do, but sometimes you can just tell it's like this dude has this shit down.
Yeah, exactly, and he was one of them, and so I really enjoyed the Metal Gear Solid 1 and 3. I didn't catch as much as 3.
Yeah, I didn't see any of 3.
I caught bits of it, and I think the guy who was on Plywood's couch, he was running 3, and I can't think of his name, and I feel bad, but I think he had a few issues, like he died in a few places that he shouldn't have done and stuff like that. So the usual, like, that never happens before. It's kind of like a running gag, I guess.
Sure.
And
it is, but at the same time, like, it's funny because you do hear that a lot. This went. You hear the guys say it all the time. This went perfectly fine in practice. I practiced 40 times for this event and, went perfect every time, and now it doesn't.
Yeah, and it's easy to... I could not imagine, like I mentioned earlier, I would buckle. I'm almost positive I would buckle under pressure with knowing that people are behind me watching me, and that's why, like, I'm just kind of like slowly and casually getting into the scene, so to speak.
Yeah.
But I'm nowhere near any kind of standard yet. So
speaking of games, they usually switch it up a little bit. There are a lot of games that are going to be constants, through AGDQ, through SGDQ, throughout the years, but they seem to switch it up a little bit. And this year we started with Crash Insane Trilogy, which I thought was a great game to start with. And usually, I'm not sure if it's tradition for SGDQ and AGDQ, but I know SGDQ usually ends with Super Metroid, but they ended with Breath of the Wild this year, which really cool.
That was a
game.
really good run.
Still learning a ton about that game. Like even the guys on the couch were talking about how they're still kind of breaking the game down and learning things about it. And it was a long one. It was a long game because they did
3 hours, and it was just short of 4 hours, I think. Their run. And
they did all the bosses. A lot. The other kind of traditional one, they usually do Super Metroid, and a lot of times they'll do Final Fantasy 3, and because when they get to the opera scene, everybody sings the opera. Also, I don't think Castlevania Symphony of the Night was on there this year, if I recall correctly.
I know there were 2 Castlevania games.
I don't think either one was Symphony of the Night, because when everybody gets to the end, there's that horrible pop song at the end of Symphony of the Night.
Right.
Everybody sings it. Like the whole one year, I remember they did a Symphony of the Night race. It wasn't that long ago, and when the first guy finished, because they finished about 4 or 5 minutes apart, something like that. And when the first guy finished, the crowd, was singing the whole song.
I can imagine that's a great, like, atmosphere to be in.
Yeah, I would go once at least. But the second guy finished, and they started all singing the song. But then about halfway through, one of the runners was like, "Okay, we're not going to sing the whole song again. It's just can't do that."
Yeah.
But one of my biggest problems with it this year was there are a ton of these that I'm going to have to wait a little bit. They'll all be uploaded soon, so anybody can go look these up, and I do recommend that. But there were a ton of games that were just at awkward hours.
Yeah.
Like I saw someone say, someone we knew said that they thought that the game selection was really bad this year. And I'm like, no, it wasn't.
It's just it was really funky times.
Battletoads, Donkey Kong Country 2, Castlevania 1 was ran. There were a ton of games
Aladdin.
Aladdin's a great example.
Contra Adam's Family. I think that was at a funny time.
Yeah, a lot of these were just early in the morning, like 8, 9 a.m., you know.
Sorry, I'm just laughing at the fact that, like, we say that they're really awkward times, but they're probably not. I mean, some of them were, you know.
You know, a lot of people have work. Like, one thing I do is I will, while I'm at work, when GDQ or when A or SGDQ are going on, you know, I put it on in the background, like I have it on mute while I'm working. But, you know, a lot of people are at work or just not awake yet. You know, a lot of these people who, you know, are watching this probably, you know, or either people with jobs or people who would be sleeping in if they didn't have jobs, you know. So it's kind of like us.
Yeah.
But a lot of these I'll go back and I'll watch once they're up for video on demand. You know, that'll be great. There's a ton of games that they do that, you know, I had no interest in the game until I saw them running. Or there's also always the awful block. And the awful block to me is worth watching, but it's normally because you go, wait, what type of game is this and why did you choose to run this?
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, out of all the games you could have picked, and all the popular games, you picked A Dog's Life or Superman 64.
Bear game, the one where the bear was, that was fun. The Superman 64. When they were explaining how the best way to run the game was to lower the screen resolution to where it was like the size of, like, you know, a cell phone basically. Yeah, that was interesting. What was the one where the bear was driving? You know what I'm talking about, because we caught part of it.
I remember, because I remember thinking, like, what the hell is this? I've never seen, I've heard of it, but I've never seen the game before.
We had some people over this week, you know, so we didn't get to see a lot of it. Certain things we wanted, but like one of the things I noticed was there was a random game during the awful block where they were actually doing like a relay race where like somebody would do one level and then they'd switch out. It just looked really interesting. I missed that. But.
Did you see the Punch Out and Super Punch Out with one controller played at the same time?
It was the two people playing the one controller?
No, it was just one dude, I think. It was
no.
one dude.
Okay. No. I know what you're talking about. Okay, so last year or a couple of years ago, they would do this thing where it was two people and one controller. So one would control the D-pad and one would control the buttons.
Right.
And I believe that was, I know they did it before with Super Punch Out, but they've done it with other games too. You know, or they'll do the challenges where it's like Chippendale Rescue Rangers where, you know, you play two players, but it's one person, so you have to pick the other person up and carry them with you.
Right, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That's the other thing though, like, GDQ isn't just speedrunning a game.
Yeah, sometimes it's just really difficult stuff or entertaining.
Right, just really interesting, like playing games like Upside Down. Like, you're not upside down, but they flip the game.
Right.
So it's upside down. Or blindfolded even. There's been a few blindfolded runs.
The Mexican runner, who is fantastic, awesome. He attempted the turbo tunnel blindfolded, and he almost made it. That's what's scary. He didn't succeed. He got so close. Funny enough, he actually popped into one of Stone Moose's chats one time, and I actually got to tell him in person.
Wow.
I got to tell him in person. I was like, man, that was an amazing attempt.
See, that's crazy, because like, I've only learned of the name now and got a face to it, like, because I've been watching his Cuphead.
Oh,
world
okay.
record.
Yeah.
And like the other day, like I was watching the end video. The other day, like this morning, when GDQ finished, and you know they've got like a kind of finale end video type thing, like a compilation. That's the word. And he was on, like he appeared on it, and I was like, oh, there's the Mexican runner, and it was kind of cool. Now I can watch these events and go, I know who you are now. Right. I recognize you.
Yeah, the recognition is starting.
Right, yeah.
Now, a lot of people know him because he wrapped up his thing where he beat every NES game live.
Wow.
You're not familiar with this?
No.
So he went through a thing where he beat every NES game that can be beaten. Like, there were some games, obviously, Draw a Dinosaur is a great example. We can't really beat that, but I think he even played it like a little bit on Twitch on live. But you should look that up. He did a really great job with going through the entire licensed NES library.
How many is that? Roughly?
500 and something.
I would say it's like 400, 500 something.
It's 500 something games.
Damn.
Yeah, and he did. I don't remember how long it took him, and I think he saved Super Mario Bros. 3 for the last game, if I remember correctly. Somebody will correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I believe that was correct. So, there's a lot of really neat stuff to watch. Now, the other thing that people do is they participate in the chat. I don't do this. I think that chat is bullshit, but that's because there's so many people in there, and it's going so fast.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm sure there's some interesting or, positive stuff that goes by. But for the most part, when I have actually made the attempt to read the chat in the past, it's all emotes, it's all memes, it's stupid questions, or on the downside you have there's a lot of racism, and there's a lot of bad jokes, and a lot of making fun of the runner, or, trying to get people to do stupid things. It's just stupid.
Yeah.
So this year was a little bit different with that. I believe this is the first year, and maybe they've done something similar to this in the past. I've just missed it because I don't deal with the chat very much. But this year they went sub only. Now, a lot of people were complaining about them going sub only, and a really quick, interesting story about that. So people were setting up, restreams of it and hosting it, and so people could get together in their own. What was it? It was called it was the underscore poverty and underscore.
GDQ underscore poverty and GDQ underscore plebs, because that was like the running thing in the chat was free the plebs,
right? Yeah,
and stuff like that, and it's like so the people that weren't subbed that couldn't chat were plebs,
right? And it was still, even with it being sub, it was still so many people, talking in chat. But the funny part of the story, so this one guy actually talked about how he set up the thing. And he talks about how it starts, and it's pretty cool, and people are talking and having a good time. And then it started to go faster, and he had to put like a delay on it. And he had to start screening some people, and then all the spam bots came in, and then all the trolls came in, and he had to start banning people and, doing more. And so by the time, he had to go to work the next day, and by the time he got home from work that day, he ended it. Because it was so much.
Yeah.
And I was like, that is the perfect example of why they had to do this. And I don't know if this is another reason they did this, but that community has been trying to become a little more inclusive. And one thing I noticed this year, and I'm sure some other people noticed this as well, there were a lot more trans runners.
Yeah.
There were more female runners and there were more trans runners. And that's cool. I don't personally care. Male, female, white, black, whatever. I want to see who can give me the best and most entertaining run of Super Mario Bros. 3 or, whatever.
Right, yeah. Because initially when AGDQ started, everyone could chat. And it was shortly after. It didn't take them long before they changed it to sub-only mode, which,
They really should have done that from the beginning.
Right.
They should have done that from the beginning. Or, I don't know if they made an announcement. I honestly don't know. I know they have their own channels and their own way they communicate. And I wonder if they told everybody, hey, it's going sub-only or something. I don't know.
I know they made a statement. I think they made a statement. I don't know whether that was during or just after they'd done it. I can understand because, as you say, it's becoming a massive, massive event now.
Yeah.
And they average, viewer-wise, anything between 120 and 150K.
Yeah, we were talking about that.
Right.
Yeah.
So, you imagine, the actual... Obviously, there's not going to be 150K people chatting, even with slow mode on and what have you, even if you have... a few hundred talking, that can be extremely difficult to moderate, and I can't imagine how many moderators and even Twitch staff as well, it would take to manage that and to try and catch. Because the other thing with Twitch chat, unfortunately, is people seem to think they can say really shit things and put a kappa on the end, and it's okay.
Because Kappa makes everything alright.
Right, exactly.
Sure.
Exactly. You know, it's like, oh, I wasn't being serious, Kappa, you know.
Yeah. For those who might be upset, though, even past all that they went sub only, I thought it was cool that, like I said, I don't use the chat.
Right, I don't either.
But I thought it was cool that all the money from the subs did go to charity. You know, it wasn't like that was like lining their pockets. And, you know, I mean, I think it did encourage a few people. Let's be honest. The people who are really there to troll and to say racist stuff and all that probably weren't going to donate anyway.
Yeah, it's more
There's a really huge chance of that. And I think it did encourage a few people to sub, you know, even if it was only a few. And that money all went to charity. And the event was a success because they raised over 2.2 million.
Yeah, it was just short of 2.3.
Right, which apparently broke the record from the previous year.
Yeah, by like 40k, I think.
Yeah, and that's awesome. You know, this is all assuming this is legit and it's all really going to charity and everything. That's amazing. Yeah, you know, and that's why I don't mind supporting this event. There are other events like we talked about, the European one. There are a couple other smaller speedrunning events. There's one speedrunning event that's just Zelda games. I can't remember what it's called now, but
yeah, I know what you mean now.
You know, and there's other charity events like Pat, the NES Punk, does the NES Marathon usually at the beginning of the year. I think it was also in January. You know, anything like this that goes to charity, I don't mind promoting and talking up because it's for a good cause. And that's awesome. I'm going to continue, you know, watching these. Like, I enjoy watching the speedruns. Yeah. I enjoy listening to the people talk about the games. So, yeah, it's good fun.
Yeah, I like learning about games and seeing games that I don't, you know, because a lot of them are on like the Nintendo systems, which I didn't really, you know, I didn't really play much, and seeing those being played in such a way, it is fascinating, and I really enjoy watching how they do it, and it's just kind of seeing how you can break a game and thinking that how the hell did you find this, you know? It's just it's mind-blowing to me.
So my closing question, of course, then is, what game do you want to see run at SGDQ? I'll go ahead and tell you. I want to see, or two. One, I want to see another Mario 64 race. Yeah. They've done it before, but those are really, really good. I also wouldn't mind seeing a Mega Man X relay. So you have teams, you know. You start with Mega Man X1, and one person runs Mega Man X1. Then you switch off, you know, do two teams, 4 people each. Then the next person does Mega Man X2, switch off. Next person does Mega Man X3, switch off. Next person finishes it with Mega Man X4. Because those are all 4 great games. You get different people to train, and maybe you could randomize it. Like, make it really fun by, like, you know, you have to learn all 4 Mega Man X games because you don't know which one you're going to be running for your team. I don't know. That might be a little too much, but I think it'd be fun. But, so the other thing is, I've noticed a severe lack. I've only ever seen them speedrun at these events maybe once, and that's Assassin's Creed games.
Yeah, I wonder why that is. I don't...
Too mission heavy, too much running around. I could see multiple reasons, but... So Assassin's Creed Origin just came out. Might be a little too new, but something like Syndicate, would love to see a speedrun or something like that.
I reckon, here's the thing, even new games, you think like, oh, nobody would have like got a record for that yet. Like, you can guarantee a day or two after release, someone's got a record.
Sure.
You know, they are hardcore.
Well, there are people who look specifically for games that just don't have records. You know, there's people who specifically look for a game. They go, here's this random NES game. Or this, one guy at one event did a game that he's like, there's only, you know, like 100 people that have ever played this game. Because it was like developed by this super small team and nobody really knew about it. But, you know, I agree. So, So what's your game you want to see run there?
I would like to see... I would like to see RE2.
Sure. Oh yeah.
I think that'd be a good one, especially with like the potential hype this month.
Now they have done it before in previous, but maybe a race or maybe you know, just a fresh new. Maybe if they've kind of cut down the time a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know about races though, because The problem with races is like I noticed with the RE3 run race that I watched, is it's difficult to. It's not so much difficult to commentate. I mean, it can be for the runners or racers, but like donations as well. It's extremely difficult to for the announcer to because they've got no opportunity because it's always so intense and bam 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 bam, this is happening, this is happening, this is happening. But definitely I would say RE2 and maybe Alien Isolation.
Oh.
I don't know. I think that's been done.
I think it's been done once, but not often. So that'd be another good one. Yeah, I was also thinking Evil Within 2.
Yeah, that would be. I don't think I've seen either of them.
Or you could pick up and run Ninja Gaiden and speedrun that. Or just actually beat that finally.
Pacifist run.
Yeah, let's practice that pacifist run.
Yeah.
Side note, I wonder if anybody's tried to run the No-Touch Challenge.
The No-Touch Challenge?
Yeah, Super Mario Bros. 3, they have that No-Touch Challenge, is where you try to beat the game without touching anything. You can't pick up power-ups, you can't pick up coins.
Game Grumps were doing that.
Yeah, it's been around before that, but he did it recently.
He was trying to do it recently.
Aaron of Game Grumps was doing it, and that was highly entertaining.
Yeah.
So if someone did want to watch some of your RE7 speedruns or just watch you stream, you have a YouTube channel. I
do. It is a Geeketiquette game. And there'll be a link in the description.
And I have a Twitter, which is just my name, @StephenWiles. But we're going to put all that stuff in the information below.
Yep, that'll all be in the description.
And you should follow her on YouTube and Twitter. And you should follow me on Twitter and read.
And Twitch.
And I do stream. I do not speedrun. Don't look for me to speedrun. But it was good talking with you about this. And it was entertaining. I wish we could have watched a little bit more. I'll definitely be watching some more.
I'm going to be catching up on VODs, for sure. Yeah. Bloodborne ones. I think it's Bloodborne ones.
Bloodborne supposedly, really I have heard, was very entertaining. Apparently the runner for that one was super entertaining. And it was all bosses, and so I'm sure it's a good, nice, meaty run. I definitely want to also look at the Super Mario race that was no cape and no Star Road. So, all right. Till next time.
Bye.